the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it! Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power! Fight the power! Fight the power!
How he responds to that could actually provoke him to follow through with this talk about sending in the National Guard when yesterday he seemed to waffle. Could this make things worse, all this pushback?
Could you imagine if, as a descendant of slaves, if my ancestors would have had that same rationale? Let's not fight against the Confederacy. Let's just try to get along, and then maybe one day they'll give us our freedom. Nowhere in the history of America or the world where marginalized people have sat silent and idle, and they've been able to actually achieve justice and liberation. The fact that you have a unified front in Chicago where we are rejecting the occupation by the military of our cities, that's actually fighting for our democracy. That's what's required in this moment. Leading in this moment takes a great deal of courage, but we stand on the shoulders of so many people that have come before us. We have seen these type of tyrannical acts before. One thing that we know for sure, when we fight back against tyranny, the people united always prevail.
You are listening to the Black Pack. Joining us now is Stacey Davis Gates, president of the Chicago Teachers Union. And Stacey, I want to welcome you back to the show. Appreciate you taking time with everything that's going on in Chicago to join us and talk about the madness that we have both in our country and apparently soon to come to Chicago.
Thank you, Adrianne. I think it's important for us to show our work. Chicago is the city with big shoulders. We are not going to cower to some unofficial king who believes that he does not have the checks and balances of our democracy. And so our mayor has been very clear about what that looks like and sounds like. And labor is stepping up to make sure that we are in coalition with families around the city, with our workers, with the people we serve, with faith communities. We are pretty serious in Chicago about resisting this encroachment, especially its pretext, right? They don't want us to be the city where migrants from Mississippi left for a safer space. They don't want us to be the city that invites Mexican immigrants in to become a part of one of the greatest places on earth. They want us to cower to some illegal encroachment of armed soldiers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, and obviously we've seen this now both here in Los Angeles where we are. There's threats of coming back. There's threats to, I mean, obviously what's happening in DC right now is sort of next level, right? Like in the now insisting that the National Guard carry their sidearms. I think we've seen the sort of ridiculousness of all of it, where you have National Guard in DC there allegedly to deal with crime, but instead they're picking up trash. I mean, just the like debasement and devaluing of our military, our service members, to have them come into a city, be used as a political prop to pick up trash off the National Mall, which I assume is, when they were in LA, they were also doing nothing because there's literally nothing to do. I'm assuming that's going to be the same in Chicago.
Well, it will be the same in Chicago, but here's the point about how wrong-headed this move is. In Chicago, that $1 million a day can be used to sustain our safe passage for the students that go back and forth to our public schools. It could be used to sustain crossing guards to make sure that children, again, can get back and forth to school safely. There are real impacts from taking money away from the Department of Education to give it to a hyper-militarized force to patrol communities that, quite frankly, are reconstructing. And the contract that we just landed, we wanted to Trump-proof our school district. And by Trump-proofing our school district, it meant that we were going to reopen school libraries because of the disinformation that is running rampant right now. Our young people need discernment and critical thinking skills and critical inquiry to be able to address this. Mm-hmm. Our young people will also need wraparound services squared, because who wakes up to a militarized force? Mm-hmm. Who walks to school under the specter of guns, right? These are things that are problematic, not just because of what it feels like, but because of what it is misappropriating in federal funds in ways that we need here in Chicago. Crime is down in Chicago. Right. In every single category. It is a discernible difference than what we've experienced in recent history. Our city is being led by a Black man who believes in Jesus and knows how to organize. That is offensive to a man who doesn't practice the good book and does cause chaos. So the level of competence that is leading our city in this moment is being challenged by the chaos of DC. What we've committed to in the labor movement is protecting our people and calling out the polarity that we are experiencing in a president who will take money away from special education and civil rights to then put it in a hyper-militarized force. Here in Chicago, our mayor is funding valuable public services like schools, like mental health care, and he's driving the crime rate down. That is the difference.
Right. Okay, so more with Stacey Davis Gates when we return. This is the Black Pack on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're part of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580.
Exciting news, ladies! Always Discreet Boutique Bladder Leak underwear are available in black and printed design. Protect yourself with style. These fit and feel just like real underwear, and they give you up to 0 leaks, 0 odor. Designed for all shapes and sizes, they give you the confidence to be fully yourself. Don't let bladder leaks hold you back. Buy Always Discreet Boutique Bladder Leak underwear now.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm, and Chuck McDowell definitely not an attorney. This is Chuck. If someone talked you into buying something really silly and you want to get out of that silly little thing, my advice, get the facts. Call me and I'll send you our timeshare exit kit absolutely free. Inside, you'll learn how timeshare works and all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your free timeshare exit information kit. 800-226-8833. That's 800-226-8833.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Los Angeles Regional Food Bank is on a mission to fight hunger and provide nutritious food to those in need across our community. They partner with federal, state, and local programs advocating for better policies and funding for critical hunger relief programs like Cow Fresh, the Emergency Food Assistance Program, and the Child and Adult Care Food Program. The food bank works with coalitions and local representatives to make sure hunger is addressed in every district of LA County. They also run nutrition education campaigns, raise hunger awareness, and source nutritious food for distribution, all while supporting regulations that allow food pantries to operate safely. Want to help? Visit lafoodbank.org or call 323-234-3030 to volunteer or find a food bank near you. Together, we can ensure that no one goes hungry in Los Angeles County. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Are you ready to be a part of the conversation that will help shape our nation's future? Get ready to join us for the Left Coast Forum, Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech, where progressive voices will come together to tackle the issues that matter most to working families across Los Angeles and beyond. From economic justice to climate action, from healthcare to housing, we're bringing together the brightest minds and most passionate advocates for real solutions and real change. With workshops workshops, 2 major keynote addresses, and a closing reception with great music and good food. It's the Left Coast Forum, where your voice matters and your ideas take action. Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech. Brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and the LA Progressive. The future won't wait, and neither should you. Mark your calendar now to be there and be heard. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 for more details.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. Let's get back to more of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire right now on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to the Black Pack, and we are continuing our conversation with Stacey Davis Gates, the president of the Chicago Teachers Union. You were talking a little bit, Stacey, about providing support to students. And you talked about Trump-proofing the schools and providing wraparound services. And I'm just wondering if you could talk a little bit more about that. I know here in LA, school was beginning. We saw, the presence of federal law enforcement. We saw a really outrageous detainment of a 15-year-old student with disabilities. We saw our superintendent and our mayor, right, and our council say that we are going to protect students, that we will have folks show up on the first days of school to make sure that they have safe passage. And I'm assuming that you all are thinking the same way about how students are being protected, they're being guarded from what is, not just an assault on the city, but an assault on their neighborhoods, an assault on their schools, an assault on them as kids having to walk through this mess that's been created.
Well, what we get to deal with in Chicago is impact. And what we do, especially in school communities, is always deal with impact. The regular impact of a school district that has never been funded at the rate that it needs to be means that our educators are always figuring out how to close the gap, how to make ends meet. This exacerbates that, right? Because now the sanctuary teams that have been enshrined in our contract, we are expanding the scope of those sanctuary teams, because what we've seen in DC is that the pretext is about sanctuary cities, right? But we know that they then anchor themselves in Black communities, right? So we are both saying sanctuary still exists, and you have to expand it to make it about the Constitution. So we are doing trainings, we are renewing those trainings. So every component of the school community, from the security guard to the custodial staff, to the admin team, to the counselors, to the educators and the paraprofessionals, they all have a role in this. They're connected to community organizations that help them anchor these trainings. And these community organizations also come to the schools and they surround the schools. We had a situation last spring where everyone jumped to the defense of young people when there was an encroachment by the federal government. Now, while that situation went smooth, imagine that all over the city. The things that have happened in LA are literally gruesome. You do not treat children in that way. It's part of the reason why my union years ago worked with Black youth-led organizations to support their attempts to get cops out of the school building. And now we're dealing with cops squared, and that we're going to get a federal militarized force. We've also enshrined academic freedom and the teaching of cultural histories like Black history within our contract as well. What we understand is that putting books authored by Toni Morse and James Baldwin and banning them like they are in red states, what it means is that our young people are not going to get, in those places, are not going to get the dimensional history of this country. that would make us understand what is happening in this moment. What we're going to do in Chicago is make sure that those protections for our members are there with academic freedom, and that they are still teaching the truth, and that they can do that without fear of some Gestapo-like tactic. We've also made our schools safe for queer children. As we know, the Department of Education being dismantled means that special education students, queer students, Black students, Latinx students, any student, those complaints will go unheard now because of the dismantling of that system. So we've built in contingencies for those young people so that there is some recourse at the district level for them, so we can be a monitoring force of sorts as the educators who are providing instruction and care for them. So we've tried to Trump-proof our district through our collective bargaining agreement, which we, quite frankly, negotiated with members of the community and sometimes parents of CPS students.
Yeah. So let me ask you about, just thinking about your members, because this, I mean, what we can say, right, is that the specter of this is sort of looming. It has not happened yet, right? And so, but even that sort of waiting, the anticipating that this thing is coming, seeing the images out of LA, seeing the images out of DC, just has to weigh on folks, right? And so I'm wondering now, like, what your members and what members of the community are feeling and thinking right now as all this rhetoric is happening, but certainly also seeing leaders stand up, yourself, the mayor, the governor, your senators, right, showing up and saying, we don't need you here, don't come here. How are your members feeling right now about this moment?
Our members are feeling put upon. They are the individuals who provide translation and context for most things that young people bring to them. There are opportunities to provide history lessons, but the supports that we won in our contract, a social worker every day, every school, nurses every day, every school, these are things that will support this type of mental chaos that is being pushed upon them from DC. But also, this is where our union gets bigger. We are holding more meetings with our members. We are soliciting their input. We are listening to their fears, but most of all, we are telling them that they still have agency in this moment, that they have the power of 30,000 in this moment, and that we have expressed before an unwillingness to capitulate to people and to policies and to laws that are, quite frankly, inhumane, undignified, and do not serve us. And so our members are ready to resist that. Our members are finding unity within their school communities and their larger union. And we are going to be committed to working and organizing a united front against this. As you just mentioned, our mayor, other elected officials, on top of that, community organizations that we work with, as well as families that we are engaged with. People are coming together as community, and we are operationalizing that. We are creating process and policies to help us communicate, to help us understand, to help us protect each other and our young people.
So this, in so many ways, represents the power of labor unions, right? I come from a union family. I know that when I was younger, and not knowing much, but the thing that I did know was that my dad's union protected us, right? And so I think about this weekend being Labor Day weekend, We know that lots of folks are coming together to think about what does resistance look like, from individual folks to, as you said, community groups, whether they're local or national organizations. But there is a particular role, I feel like, in America's history, and I'm reminded that you are a history teacher. But there is a particular role for labor unions in American history, and the role that they play, not just in terms of protecting workers, but also standing in and being in solidarity and in alliance, in strategic alliance with the civil rights movement, right, and other movements. And so I'm wondering about your thoughts as we head into Labor Day weekend in a particularly perilous moment in American history, and what the role of labor is in this moment.
Such a great question. And shout out to your dad for having that protection. That protection has meant everything to workers everywhere in this country. What we're doing here in Chicago is living in the vein of enslaved Africans who left plantations. Remember, slavery was legal. It was the law of the land, right? And you get enslaved Africans during the Civil War leaving plantations courageously to something that is unknown, but liberation, right? And so they leave there against every odd presenting to them. And what they do is that they make America better. Leaving that plantation breaks the back of the Confederacy. It allows the Union Army to win the war. We are rejoined as a country, but then those workers, they make a demand of this country, and then that demand becomes the Department of Education. That demand becomes the Department of Justice. That demand becomes Health and Human Services. That demand becomes diversity, equity, and inclusion. It gives us the basis for which we are still fighting for today. Sadly, with some of the same rhetoric. But what I understand is that their sacrifice, their courage is absolutely the work and the struggle of labor in this moment. We have got to compel workers everywhere in this country to understand the power of our solidarity. Quite frankly, solidarity is the antidote to the white supremacy in which we are dealing with in our country in this moment, because it is that solidarity that connects, especially here in Chicago, the Northwest side to the West side, the Southwest side to the Southeast side, the South side to the North side. That's the solidarity of my 30,000 members who live in all 77 neighborhoods. And so we have tested that, we have tried that, and we have created an expanded democracy in Chicago because of that. So we are asking our members to dig in, to straighten up their backs in this moment, and to know that it is solidarity, that it is our duty and our service in this moment to both educate, right? Give people context for this moment. Tell them that we've been here before and we have overcome. It is also a moment for them to be courageous and clear and values driven as individuals in the city, to talk to their neighbors, to make sure that we are connected on all of the right things, and then to point to something that will get better. Struggle gives us impact, and the struggle that labor has been involved in, when it is aligned with the faith community, when it is aligned with the civil rights community, has always been a better America.
And I know that when we talked last time, it was May Day. And so I'm calling you up for all the labor holidays. So it was May Day, and we were talking about the big actions that were going to be happening for May Day around the country, but in Chicago, and that you and your members were helping to organize. And so that sort of activism, right? That sort of being out in the street and publicly showing resistance, publicly saying we don't consent, right, to what's happening in this country has continued, and there's going to be more actions this weekend for Labor Day weekend. Talk to us about the actions that are going to be happening on Monday in Chicago.
Another great question. So all across the country this weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, workers allied with their communities are going to demonstrate a resistance of this tyranny, but also a contrast to this tyranny. They're going to show solidarity. They're going to show unity. They're going to show resistance in this moment. And that's going to be everywhere in this country. Labor Day, quite frankly, with the numbers that we're seeing, is going to be even bigger than May Day. And so in Chicago on Monday, we're going to have people like Randy Weingarten, the mayor of Chicago, rally and march for the soul of this city, this county, this state, this country. They're going to reaffirm our democracy through resistance. We have to show people and tell people. You have a legal strategy, you have a legislative strategy, you have an electoral strategy, and you got a street heat strategy in Chicago. We are going to do all of the things here in Chicago to make sure that we resist. So 11 a.m. on Monday morning, labor across this state, this county, and this city, international labor, they're going to be here, and we're going to figure out how to push back on the America that marginalizes and show a diverse, a unified, an American in solidarity with the democracy that we deserve.
Yeah, I appreciate your comment about demonstrating the contrast, right? Showing the America that we want to be in this moment and not the America that's being foisted on the people right now. So showing that solidarity, not just this weekend, right? But all the time. I feel like I'm about to get on a plane and come to Chicago.
Well, I want you to call Cecily in LA. So UTLA is doing something very similar in LA this weekend as well. It is our organizing, it is our vision that in every city in this country, that labor steps up as a neighbor, as a Confederate, as a supporter, as a sibling.
Yeah, it's a long haul. I'm glad that you all are leading and demonstrating and showing how it can be done. So appreciate you always. Stacey Davis Gates, president of the Chicago Teachers Union. Thanks for joining.
Hey, I appreciate you, and thank you for having me.
More of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
For BIN News this hour, I'm Esther Dillard. Coming up, the NAACP files a lawsuit in Texas after new voting maps are signed into law.
It's not just a hypocritical position. It's not just a counterproductive position. It is a dangerous position.
Black Voters Matter responds to D.C.'s DOJ, saying it's okay to bring registered shotguns into D.C. And the Color of Change PAC is gearing up for a multi-state campaign to get people out to vote in special elections across the country. But first, here's BIN News Now.
70 years after 14-year-old Emmett Till was lynched, the Mississippi Department of Archives is displaying the pistol used in his killing.
The weapons acquisition ensures it will be preserved for scholars to study and future generations to understand this important tragedy.
That's two Mississippi Museums director Michael Morris. Till's murder spotlighted racial violence, and in 2022, President Biden signed the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act. Black New York City Mayor Eric Adams is proposing new rules to prevent future Legionnaires' outbreaks after a Harlem cluster killed 7 people. Plans include more cooling tower inspections, monthly Legionella testing, higher fines for violations, and a community team to educate residents. The health department is also reviewing city regulations. And Florida has executed Curtis Wyndham, a black man convicted of killing 3 people 33 years ago. The 59-year-old was put to death by lethal injection, marking Florida's 11th execution this year, which is a state record. I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Back to you, Esther.
Thanks, Amber. Texas Governor Greg Abbott took to the social media platform X with a black Sharpie in hand to announce the signing of the Republican-friendly redistricting bill approved by the state legislature. The law will redraw the state's congressional boundaries.
The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has been at the forefront of inflammatory bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more about research, education, and support at Crohn'sCollitusFoundation.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
USC and UCLA kick off the 2025 season tomorrow. Both teams have a lot of work to do to make up for a disappointing season last year. USC, 4-5 in the Big Ten last year, is at home against Missouri State. UCLA, 3-6 last year in the Big Ten, opens up against Utah in the Rose Bowl. Second year for head coach Deshaun Foster at UCLA. Foster has 57 new players and 8 new assistant coaches. It's a critical year for USC coach Lincoln Riley. This is Riley's 4th season at USC. Under Riley, the Trojans have failed to make the college football playoffs. The best HBCU football game tomorrow is in Miami. Howard and Florida A&M are meeting up in the annual Orange Blossom Classic at Hard Rock Stadium, home of the NFL Miami Dolphins. 1 p.m. kickoff Pacific time. You can catch the game live on ESPNU. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, y'all, come on. Come to
At KBLA Talk 1580, we fight the power every day.
Yeah, gotta give us what we want. Gotta give us what we need. Hey.
I listen to KBLA and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, you know, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it. Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power. Fight the power.
We are anti-racist, anti-hate, and anti-stupid stuff. Unapologetically progressive, KBLA Talk 1580.
September is World Alzheimer's Month, a time to shine a light on a public health crisis that hits Black families hardest. 1 in 5 Black adults ages 70 and older is living with Alzheimer's disease, or AD, and it's not a normal part of aging. Early signs like repeating questions, missed appointments, even trouble handling bills might seem small, but they matter. The good news? There are treatment options available that may slow AD when diagnosed early. Don't wait. Visit treatalzearly.com. That's treatalzearly.com to learn more. This message is brought to you by AZI.
Hey, it's Matt, your leaf filter trusted pro. Gutters are an often neglected part of the home. They're also one of the most important. Clogged, overflowing gutters can cause serious problems like foundation damage or basement flooding, which can cost thousands of dollars to fix. Let's face it, cleaning gutters yourself is not only a hassle, it can be dangerous. But when you get Leaf Filter, you'll never have to worry about cleaning clogged gutters again. Get started today by visiting leaffilter.com/deal to schedule your free inspection. If you decide to move forward, we'll professionally clean, realign, and seal your gutters before installing our patented stainless steel micro mesh system. Leaf Filter keeps out everything but the water. And it's backed by a lifetime transferable no clogs warranty. So you're protected for good. We're in your neighborhood and ready to help. Visit Leaf Filter today for a free inspection and estimate, and you could save up to 30%. Visit leaffilter.com/deal. That's leaffilter.com/deal.
Where else can you get breaking news, weather, traffic, and an unapologetically progressive conversation?
Nowhere except right here.
Welcome home, LA. Your new home, KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Worried about eviction? You have rights, and Stay Housed LA can help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between LA County, the City of Los Angeles, and local service providers. From Lancaster to Long Beach, we're here to help you with tenant education workshops, legal clinics, free legal services for eligible tenants, and online resources about tenant protection laws. Don't face eviction alone. Call our hotline at 1-888-694-0040. That's 1-888-694-0040. Or visit stayhousedla.org. Stay Housed LA, keeping Los Angeles residents in their homes. Stay Housed LA, your rights, your home, our community. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
You're inside the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to the Black Pack. I am your host, Adrianne Shropshire, here at KBLA Talk 1580. We have been hearing lots and talking about the economy. We have been talking about Trump and his bizarre trade wars, where he has tried to buck up over the last few weeks and then had to back down the other day. We've been talking about federal workers, some people fired, unfired, fired again and unfired again. But we know that when the economy is crashing and tumbling, that both public sector workers and private sector workers are going to be affected. And so I'm really excited to be joined today by April Verrett, the president of the Service Employees International Union, SEIU. April, thank you for joining. I'm so glad that you're here.
I am so excited to be on this show. I can't believe how long it's taken me, but I have arrived. I am here.
You have arrived. And honestly, I feel like I've got to find a time when you are in LA where you can come into the studio so we could really mix it up.
Anytime I get to go home to LA, it's a good time.
I know, we miss you too. So I want to just get started before we talk about, maybe gloomy stuff. With talking about what we saw last weekend on April 5th. So we talked about and hoped and suggested, encouraged folks to join a local action for the hands off protests that happened across the country. 1,300 protests, I think there were, millions of people in the streets. And I think it's important to say that because I'm not sure that people saw that on their local news coverage. I'm not sure they saw it on their cable news coverage. But there were millions of people in the street last weekend protesting this government, protesting Donald Trump and Elon Musk. I know that you have been out talking to folks, making sure that people know what's going on. From Boston to Chicago and everywhere in between. So how are you feeling about the response that we're seeing from everyday people, from working people, and the turnout that we've seen at some of these events and protests?
Yeah, I have to be honest, as always. It is hard. Like, this has been a slog. It has been the longest, 80 days maybe at this point and counting.
Yeah.
It feels like of my career. But Saturday was invigorating. I was in Chicago and I started the day with about 300 security officers, mostly Black women, single mothers, right? Getting ready to get their weight up to go to the bargaining table for their next contract. And then I literally walked across the street to Daley Plaza and joined 30,000 folks. Yeah. And what it feels like is we are moving from protest to disruption.
Yeah.
Right. We have used our in the meantime well as we figure out are we not just reacting, but that we are being proactive about getting it together to build the America that we want and we deserve. And so these are long days. We are tired, but look, we are not defeated and we are determined. And I'm just proud of us. I'm proud that we've weathered the storm and that we are ready to keep pushing forward.
Yeah, I'm 30,000 people there, 100,000 people in New York, 100,000 people in DC. Like, these are big numbers.
Yeah.
And it also strikes me, and I'm glad you said that, like, we used our, in the meantime time well, because this is a thing, like, we see these memes and videos on social media all the time that is like, that are still, right? Like, it was one thing in November, another thing in December, the sort of like, get someone else to do it, right? I'm resting, I've got my tea, I'm taking a nap. But it seems like, one, I don't think that was ever true. And even for Black women who were like, we did the thing, we don't know what happened to the rest of y'all. But it seems like we have approached a point where that is actually not even a sustainable thing to be saying in jest, right? That, like we're seeing all kinds of attacks, and it is not realistic, right, for any one of us to feel like we can wait for too much longer, right? Like, wait, period, but also the time seems to be right now. And I think we're seeing some of that with these big numbers that we're seeing in the streets. What is your take on the sort of like, we're resting, we're napping, we're drinking our water?
We have been healing. We have been, reflecting. We have been rejuvenating our spirits. We deserve that and so much more. And so we know that we don't get to rest. Since the beginning of our time on this continent, right? It has been about us sustaining our communities and being at the forefront and being beacons of hope for all of us and willing to do what we got to do. And so, yeah, we deserve to reflect and rejuvenate. And now it's time to join the resistance, and it's time for us to lead the resistance. And so you and I and our sister warriors, we take our rightful place, right? At the head of this fight.
Yeah. I think that's right. I do feel like there is a gathering of self, right? That had to happen. And I think that's being reflected in where them fans at, right? That we're seeing everywhere, right? I think it's like, we are gathering ourselves because we certainly know, right, that the struggle before us is long and that it's going to be hard. And so I feel like people were in the right to say, let me get myself together. Let us get ourselves together, because we're going to have to step out, and maybe, in waves, right?
Yeah. Oh, I absolutely think it has to come in waves. We have to share responsibility, right? It cannot just be on our shoulders. And so the fact that other folks are taking the lead, I'm like, come on, I welcome it, right? A lot has been made for some crowds were whiter, right, than folks are used to seeing them. I think that's okay.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
Listen, everybody's got to do their part. I think about in 2017, the sort of first waves of the opposition looked like this too.
That's right.
Folks got out there while others were getting themselves together. And we kept it pushing. So again, this is the reason why I was so happy to be, to have you on and to be in conversation with you. It's exactly for this kind of conversation. But when we come forward, we are going to get into a question about labor. And about labor unions and about members, and what is happening, right, with labor right now in this moment, and in the face of being under attack by the Trump administration as well. So before the break, we were talking about the hands-off actions. We were talking about the importance of mobilization, not just for the sake of mobilization, but for the sake of, I've been saying this thing about, like, the opposition might not be fully formed, but we are in formation, right? We are getting there, and we're seeing that. But like, you are the head of a union with a very diverse 2 million members, right, across sectors. And I'm just wondering, when we think about what we've been seeing, because obviously the federal workers that are being fired, right, in some cases it feels or seems like illegally. We know that, there are some basic, there's a lot that's underneath that, right, in terms of people losing their income, right, losing benefits, et cetera, right? We know that labor unions are going to play a critical role in the opposition in this moment in time. So I'm wondering how you see the role of labor, right? How you see the role of SEIU in this long-term struggle that we're going to be to protect not just democracy, but to protect individual American citizens at this point.
Yeah. So it's important. I always like to ground this conversation in a couple of things. One, there is no healthy democracy on our earth where there is not a healthy, vibrant labor movement that does its part to protect and strengthen democracy. So they know that, right? And there has been a concerted, strategic, effective 40-year attack on labor. And we know that this attack has been effective because we've gone from highs of around 25% union density in our economy to 6% union density in our economy today. And so I think that a lot of what we're seeing is the wealthy elites, corporations who want all of the power, who want to control the economy and our democracy as they want, are trying to yield and issue the death blow, to the labor movement. And so right now we're seeing that waged on the federal workers, for the most part, with actions like an executive order that just wiped away collective bargaining contracts for 1 million workers.
Right.
But we also see things like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and others filing lawsuits to contest the constitutionality of the National Labor Relations Board.
Right.
And a lot of listeners may not say, oh, well, what's that got to do with me, right? The NLRB is the agency, right, of the federal government that tries to give workers some ability to have fairness with their employers.
Right.
It's not perfect, but it's what we got.
Right.
And the fact that these folks are trying to get rid of it should tell you that they don't want unions. And
Right.
And as a 23-year organizer, I always tell workers, why are they trying to take it from you, right? It must be bad for them if they don't want you to have it.
Right. And that's right. We know that both Bezos and Musk have lots of worker discrimination, right? Lots of union busting, right? So we know that there's not just the two, right? Like not just those two companies, but we know that there has been, and we've seen it a lot in the news lately, right? Whether it's Starbucks or whatever, the sort of anti-worker efforts happening inside of corporations. And the challenge, and this is the thing that everyone understands, is that whether and this is what you're saying, is that whether people are part of a union or not, there are protections in place, right?
That's
to make sure that you are not exploited, to make sure that your rights are not taken from you as a worker. And all of that now hangs in the balance, right?
Yeah.
All of that
Yeah.
now.
One of the early actions, right, of Musk and Doge was to go into the Department of Labor, right, for this data that they swear they need. And we filed a lawsuit early against that, because there are folks, citizens, right? Now, I'm not talking about union members, just everyday folk who may file a complaint with the Department of Labor against their employer. That data, who wants to file a confidential complaint against their employer to have that information made public?
Right. So more with April Verrett, president of the Service Employees International Union. Stay with us.
You're part of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is the story of the one. As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep his coworkers safe. From finding ways to reduce risks to keeping safety supplies in stock. And for that, he relies on Grainger. Grainger offers a broad range of quality products and next-day delivery, so he can always play it safe. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This is Joe Cordell of Cordell & Cordell. Cordell & Cordell is the largest family law firm in the country, with over 35 years of helping clients navigate divorce. That does give us certain advantages, for example, in experience and resources. But being big doesn't mean less personal or less local. Our attorneys live and work in your community, and as neighbors, they understand the challenges your families face. If you're a guy facing divorce, remember, Cordell & Cordell, a partner you can count on.
1455 Frazee, San Diego. CordellCordell.com.
JP Morgan Chase offers tips for the local business owners in 2025. Small business landscape is ever changing, and the Los Angeles market is no exception. A startup or legacy business, revisiting your mission statement and recalibrating offerings can renew opportunities for growth and innovations. Programs like Chase for Business Coaching for Impact gives entrepreneurs access to expert guidance, helping you streamline operations, strategize your growth, and navigate complex challenges. Businesses with a clear sense of purpose can navigate any challenge effectively, but also build stronger customer loyalty. Visit chase.com/coaching for impact for more information. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase.
Let's get back to more of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire right now on KBLA Talk 1580.
You You are listening to the Black Pack, and we are here with April Verrett, president of the Service Employees International Union, and homegirl to us all. Well, I think my next question for you, which is really the labor movement has, obviously, built the middle class and gave us the weekend and all the things that we talk about, right? But it has also helped to usher in some major social justice and civil rights victories in its history, right? And I feel like it's something that we don't want to lose sight of right now, and that people need to understand that when you and SEIU are talking about fighting for rights, that you're not just talking about doing that just in a very narrow lane, right? That is labor, right? That there is a role for labor to play in sort of ushering these sort of transformative moments in American history. And I just wonder how you and your colleagues in the other, labor unions think about that role beyond representing and fighting for your own members, but really thinking about the role that you all have and can play in ushering in real transformative change in the country.
Yeah. Well, just personally speaking, I do not take my role lightly, right? Not just as the leader of a union of 2 million people, but I am very clear that my purpose, right, my life's work is about contributing to end poverty wage work in this country forever.
Yeah.
Right. That is what I am here for. And that's what I build power for. And that's why I do the work that I do. And so I don't just do that in the interest of SEIU members. I do that in the interest of hundreds of millions of workers who live and work in poverty. And our union is proud of our 15 years waging the fight for 15, right? That has brought minimum wage increases to millions of workers in this country. And so now we're saying, okay, 15 ain't enough either. So what's next, right? And I'm encouraged because more and more I sit around tables with labor leaders and we talk about what's our role with ending poverty? What's our role with making sure every worker, 9 in 10 workers in this country can't form a union today if they want to.
Right.
We need new rules. I think if this moment has taught us anything, it's that the status quo is not good enough. It hasn't been for a very long time, but more and more Americans are fed up. And so many systems in this country are broken. Let's stop trying to put Band-Aids and paper clips on them, right? Including the system of how people join unions. It is time for new things. I like to say, let's build a 21st century labor movement that is younger and darker and hipper and gym shoe wearing and multi-generational and inclusive, that actually stands a chance to win for workers in this economy the way people want to work. And so that is what is in front of us to do.
Yeah, and I think that I'm glad you said that about we can envision big things and we should do big things. And similarly, if this moment has taught us anything, is that you can just do the big things, right? The tinkering around the edges. I think this administration and this, Republican Party, to the detriment of Americans, right, has simply said, actually, you can just do big things. You can just change it all, right? And so I've heard lots of people talking about this idea of a Project 2029, right, for our side, right? Like, what are the big things? And you just named some of them. Like, what are the big things that we know haven't been working, don't work, right? That we need to really think about. How do we bring in something wholly new that actually benefits the American people? And so I wonder, on that front, are there things that you would include, right, in a Project 2029 that would be the big things that we been needed to, right, change for a while?
Yeah. Well, I mean, on my wish list, like if I had to dream a dream, I want corporations to be held responsible for poverty, right? And not just seek government to put a Band-Aid on it, but to hold corporations responsible for economic exploitation and paying poverty wages. I want, really well-funded, holistic public schools that everyone has access to give our children a fighting chance. I don't just want to not stop the $880 billion in cuts to Medicaid. I want to create a healthcare system that actually gets everybody the care that they need, regardless of their income.
Yeah.
Right. I want workers, regardless of their immigration status and documentation, to have a shot at not living in the shadows and being seen for their full humanity and dignity.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I appreciate that, because I feel like that is, when we come out of this, and we'll come out of this, right? When we come out of this, we need to have things that people really feel is gonna move their lives, right, and transform their lives. And so, because I think things haven't been working for people, and we shouldn't. And it's unfortunate that we then have to defend things that we know don't necessarily work for people, but we're defending them because the alternative is so much worse. But it does feel like putting forward these kinds of big ideas, right? That what the things that you just laid out there feel really important right now. Right. To give people something to fight for, to give people an alternative vision of the things. Like, we can have nice things. We actually can. And
we deserve nice things.
We deserve nice things. Yeah. We deserve actual healthcare system that works. Right. We deserve not to be exploited in our workplaces.
Yeah.
We deserve for our children to be able to learn and be curious and not be diminished in their classrooms, not be told that their histories don't matter, right? We deserve all of those things. And so I really think that people should be thinking about this. What is the Project 2029, right?
Yeah.
That we need to be out there talking about, organizing people around, and fighting for, and getting those people who want to be elected officials, whether they're Democrats or otherwise, getting them organized around the things that we need for them to be speaking to right now.
Sure. And I totally agree with everything you just said, Adrianne. And we don't have to wait to start fighting for them. In places like California and Illinois and New York, we can start implementing those policies now, right? We can start talking about it. So that's the wonderful thing. One of the wonderful things about this democracy, right? It's not just federal government that can do big things. State governments can, county governments can, city governments can. And so sometimes we have to show what's possible.
Yeah.
At state and local levels in order to make it feasible at a national level.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, because I do think we get very caught up, particularly around election time, in what's happening at the federal level. And we forget that not only do we have power in states, but we, in some states, actually have allies, right? That want to move stuff. So I think that's an important point for folks to know, like, there's stuff that you can do where you are. Well, thank you so much, April, not just for joining, but just for all the work that you all are doing. You know, I'm a big fan. I feel like I'm part of the SEIU family forever.
Because you are.
I am. So I appreciate all the work that you and members and leaders are doing around the country.
Anytime. Thank you, Adrianne, and thank you to the KBLA family.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black New York City Mayor Eric Adams says 1,000 new officers will patrol the Bronx this weekend after a string of shootings. He also plans to work with gang leaders.
We're going to reach out to the notable gang members and see if we can sit down around the table and talk about how do we end this violence.
Adams spoke at Haffen Park, where a mass shooting at a basketball game left 1 dead and 3 injured. Alabama is appealing a federal judge's order to redraw state Senate lines in Montgomery County. Judge Anna Manasco ruled the maps violate the Voting Rights Act and require a new majority black district before the 2026 elections. And Michael Vick is still searching for his first win as HBCU Norfolk State's head coach. In his debut, the Spartans fell to Towson 27-7 after a close game into the fourth quarter. Norfolk State hosts Virginia State on September